Hey there, and welcome to the Divorce Planner Podcast. I'm Alex Beatty. If you're a stay-at-home mom considering divorce, you're facing unique financial challenges that most people don't understand. You might not have your own income or be familiar with all the family finances, and you might feel powerless when it comes to protecting yourself. Today, I'm talking to family law attorney Sharie Reyes Albers about essential protection strategies for every stay-at-home mom. We dive into legal options for maintaining health insurance after divorce, how to protect your financial stability during separation, and the documentation that can make or break your spousal support case. One thing Sharie told me that really resonated: the financial power many stay-at-home moms bring to negotiations is often dramatically undervalued, both by their spouses and sometimes even by their own legal representation. Preparation can make all the difference. Whether you're just thinking about divorce or you're already in the process, this conversation has strategies that can help protect your financial future and your peace of mind. Let's dive in. My guest today is a repeat guest, which makes me so excited. Family law attorney Sharie Reyes Albers is based out of Virginia, and she is kind of a one-stop shop if you have any questions about divorce. But without further ado, I'll jump into it. Look, stay-at-home moms and preparing them for a divorce is one of my passions, right? Like the sacrifices that women make when they are mothers, whether it's working inside of the home or outside of the home, are pretty substantial. It's just the way, more often than not, the way the deck is stacked, if you will. We have to take a lot of concessions on income and retirement in order to fulfill every role that's really necessary to keep a family humming. So with that, I'm just going to talk about the biggest fear of most of my stay-at-home mom clients, which is money after divorce. And we all know money equals feelings. So what are like the first 3 steps every stay-at-home mom needs to kind of take in order to protect herself financially as she starts this divorce journey?
I would say planning is the biggest thing. If you are the one thinking about divorce and you're the stay-at-home mom, then try to take the advantage of planning. Because a lot of the times the stay-at-home moms are not involved in the financial aspect. So they don't know what accounts exist. That's really big in Virginia, is to find out what accounts there are. So start looking into the mail. Start trying to figure that out. Take account of what, if you see like a Charles Schwab account, maybe you never knew about it, but start collecting those pieces. And I always tell my clients, like, make a little chart, whether it's a spreadsheet or a Word document, start keeping that information. What is out there? Because that'll help your attorney to say, hey, I know he banks at Bank of America or she banks at Citibank. Then at least we know we can do a subpoena to get that information. In Virginia, it's also important to know what was in existence at your date of separation. It's really big here. So try to look at what is there. If you can, try to gather that information, because the more you know, it gives you more power to say, this is what I'm looking for. That's like the biggest thing, is planning, finding out what is it there, and trying to get those documents as you can.
I'm into every answer you just gave. It's absolutely the truth. And it's the foundation of really kind of setting yourself up as best as possible. But I would say the headline of what you just said, which I think carries a lot of guilt and shame for some of my stay-at-home moms out there, is you might not have been in charge of the finances starting this process. You have to kind of get over some big feelings that are come up. And the basis of my coaching practice is there's an emotional side to divorce and there's a business side, and you need to separate the two, address them both, but separate them, because you don't want emotions making big decisions for you. And if you maybe weren't in charge of the finances in your family dynamic, it can feel super intimidating and you might want to bury your head in the sand. So I love what you said. 100% agree. Keep a list of what you can't get your hand on, right? I think the other part when we're talking about finances is this idea of support, right? It's a really, I don't know, it's got this like negative buzz to it. I find that either we're complaining I have to pay spousal support for the stay-at-home parent, or there's a shame attached to it of like, why can't I just do this on my own? How does a mom's role as a primary caregiver really affect her spousal support? And what specific records, if any, should she keep that might help in terms of making sure she gets that support as she makes this transition?
Yeah. At least in my state of Virginia, they do look at, and there's factors for in Virginia of spousal support. A very big one is looking at the financial and non financial contributions to the marriage. That includes raising the children. So I like to call my stay at home moms, they're not part of the paid workforce, but they are working. And that is something they get credit for because their careers are being put on the back burner to raise their children. So they're making valid contributions. Other things they look at is, they're at home raising kids. Their spouse is able to advance their career because how would they do that without the support at home? So there's so many of those factors that come into play, and they look at things like eventually, at least in Virginia, they'd like that stay-at-home parent to eventually get back to the workforce and be able to support themselves. But in that, they're looking at how long do they need to get that further accreditation? How long do they need to build up more of a career, not just entry position? And they look at like the needs. What are the cost of living around here? What is your ex-spouse making? All of that does factor in here. But Virginia does take that into consideration for those stay-at-home moms who are doing very, very hard work.
I love that. I love how progressive Virginia is in recognizing that a stay at home mom is actually juggling more than one job, right? It just happens to be unpaid. You don't get leave, you don't get sick days, you don't get retirement contributions, you don't get income increases, right? And you're a cook, you're a chauffeur, you're a nurse, you name it. It is a very important role that is underrepresented, but I'm loving hearing that Virginia is so progressive and takes that into consideration moving forward. We'll be back after a quick break. Feeling overwhelmed about the possibility of a divorce and not sure where to start? Book a free 15-minute strategy call with me. During our time, we'll talk about where you are in the process and what next steps could be. To schedule your call and learn more about my coaching program, head over to www.thedivorceplanner.net/coaching. Let's get back to today's episode. From your experience, and I always love asking this question, what costly mistakes do stay-at-home moms make when they're negotiating divorce settlements that could hurt their future financial security?
So sometimes people do depends on like their priorities. Like I want custody of the kids, right? So they may not go after the support fully. A big error here, or at least in my state, is you can waive spouse support. And if you do that, you don't get another chance to get it. So that's very important to know. Like it's something that goes away. Child support's different, but like these are the financial mistakes. Sometimes they get tied into the emotional connection, not normally the finances that they need to be thinking about. So I say those are the big financial risks, either not looking at how much support they could receive.
Yeah.
Not looking at what they would financially need to, because it's a big divorce is a big event. It's a big financial event where you're taking a single household and now making two. So they have to, I usually suggest try to speak to a financial planner when you're thinking about that. Look down and say, what do I actually need to survive?
Yeah.
And figure out your goals from there as well.
I agree wholeheartedly. And by being proactive when you're doing a preparation before starting this process, making sure that you have an understanding of what to expect when you go into the negotiation process. There are a lot of my stay at home moms that don't have that experience. And I know the idea of doing that, if you haven't been the primary person in charge of finances, seems really daunting. But I will tell you, the preparation is the anxiety tamer. All those money fears, once you have the hard numbers, you're in control. I would just say, like, even in the earliest stages, a lot of my stay at home moms can get really freaked out about the fact that, okay, well, we're going into a separation. What does that mean? Like, is everything just going to stop being paid for? Because look, I have to say, it's a big threat that I hear a lot, especially if the spouse is initiating a divorce and saying, you're not getting anything. You never worked. It's all mine. It all ends now. What kind of protections can be put in place financially for stay at home moms during a separation?
So in Virginia, anything gained during the marriage, whether it was like a giant bank account or a retirement account that was funded through the husband or wife's, whoever is a non-staying home parent, their income, that's marital funds, whether that bank account's titled in husband or ex-wife's name. So they have access to this. And we have a process called a motion for pendente lite relief. Basically fancy for saying while the matter's pending. You can go ask for that temporary spousal support. You can go ask for that temporary child support. And then you could ask for things like continue paying the rent, continue paying the mortgage. Oh, and I need advance attorney's fees too. So there are ways to help prevent this. Okay. And to help the stay at home parent to have access to these funds because that spouse can be making those threats, but there's ways to stop.
That makes me feel more secure just hearing you walk through it. There are options, which is why, again, preparing in advance of starting the process and making sure that you consult with a local family attorney before agreeing to anything with your soon to be ex. You don't want to agree to anything, especially in writing, if you haven't educated yourself at every point of how that will affect you. And especially if we're, talking about where am I going to live and whether that's during the divorce or after, that's the other thing. If somebody's threatening, like you need to leave the property and you share a family home, what kind of legal rights do stay at home moms have to keep living in the family home during and after divorce? Especially if you have kids involved, that consistency really goes a long way.
You're right. With kids, stability and consistency is key with custody. But in Virginia, we're a fault state. So if someone says get out of the house and you leave, they could potentially, arguably, make an argument for abandonment and desertion. And they can't kick you out of the house. We do a lot of in-home separations here. A way to deal with this also is like that in that motion for pendente lite relief, you can ask for exclusive use and possession of the home to say, I need to be here. And it's not a great living environment for the kids for him to still be here. So you might want to take more of the stronger position, the more proactive position, and try to get him to move out, whether that's through an agreement that he or she moves out or through the court system to get the court involved, to get an order to say he or she has to move out.
That is a game changer. Obviously, you practice in the state of Virginia, but that information is still information that if you're in another state or if you're in Canada, you can take that to your consultation at the divorce attorney and say, how can this work for me? I know that this is another state, but what are my rights? Which is great. So I just want to make sure that if you're hearing something that we're sharing with you today, don't just think, I don't live there. It doesn't apply to me. You are going to be an active participant in the divorce process, right? And so the reason that I work with people preparing in advance or have these conversations with trusted experts like Sharie is because I want to empower you to become your own best advocate. You are a part of the legal team. And when you're having a consultation with a divorce attorney, you're also getting a sense of the tone that your divorce is going to take by how that person, is interacting with you. So just make sure you find that right fit. When we started this out and I was talking about, look, there's an emotional side to divorce and there's a business side. Not an understatement. Money equals feelings. Not being with their kids all the time equals feelings. Look, negotiations can be very triggering and emotions can run high. What are some strategies for helping stay-at-home moms stay focused and prepared when discussing their future?
I always say it's good to try to have a good support system, someone to talk it through with, whether that's a close friend, family member, therapist, someone to be a sounding board for you. Because there needs to be some sort of release of that emotion, right? To be able to focus on the business side of it, like you're saying, the financial side of it. Whatever helps you get through that process. But I think you're 100% correct. The more you're prepared, the more you feel like you're in control and the less anxiety you would have. Less anxiety is less emotion. I would say that is the best way to start.
I love that, which is all about also identifying when you are having that emotional response and taking a minute, waiting a beat, realizing you don't have to answer anything when you're feeling kind of overcome with feelings like that. I will share, like when I was going through my own divorce mediation, the only time that I really felt what you're talking about was when we were at the point of our kind of negotiation to talk about parenting plans and how much parenting time each person was going to get. I had to excuse myself from the room. I was overcome because nobody goes into starting a family thinking they're not going to be with their children 100% of the time. But by leaving, by honoring how I was feeling and not being reactive and acting based on it, I put myself in a much better position to get the outcome I wanted, right? So just acknowledge when those big feelings come up. We'll be right back after a quick break. Subscribe to the Divorce Planner's weekly newsletter and get divorce prep tips, financial planning tools, and expert insights delivered discreetly to your inbox. Sign up at www.thedivorceplanner.net. Let's get back to today's episode. Can an ex use being a stay-at-home parent against you in court or negotiations?
Use it against you. So that's the stronger position for custody and visitation. Honestly, that's at the front end of the divorce process. That's the stronger argument of saying you need support too, because you don't have the income coming in. You're doing the unpaid work. So I don't see how it could be used against you, at least in my realm where I am in the similar states to me. It's more of a stronger position of, I've been taking care of the kids, so I should have primary physical custody, and I need support because you were out there building up your career while I was raising our kids.
I love that you said that. It's really important. There's this mindset, right? Like, oh, stay at home moms, stay at home parents are just leeching off of the other parent. Nothing could be further from the truth. That other high earning, breadwinning parent could not be in that position without the role you play. Just know your value, know your worth when you're going into this. Well, I'm going to just wrap up with one last question that's kind of an important one. And it's about big expenses that stay at home moms are going to be taking on their own in their budget after a divorce. And those are healthcare and retirement. And, what we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation, when you've been a stay at home parent and you have taken either time out of the workforce or put that on hold, or maybe you started so young that you made the choice that the stay at home parenting was your career. You haven't been able to put away for retirement. You've probably had your healthcare taken care of through that other spouse who's working. So, they're two big concerns for stay at home moms moving forward. How the hell is this going to get covered? What do they need to know about impacting those benefits during divorce?
So health insurance under Virginia code, they have to keep you on the health insurance until final entry of the order of divorce. Okay. So that could be like a year, could be year two. And then sometimes we have agreed to trying to reach out to that ex-spouse's health insurance when they're divorced to see if they can still join on the plan. Sometimes they can. So that's something to start asking, like after the divorce, is there a way I can still get a plan? Some have agreed that that ex-spouse will maintain that health insurance policy as a form of spouse support in addition to a monthly amount. So that's a creative thing to do too. Yes. Retirement here, you're capped up to 50% of each other's retirement. So they're gonna get a piece of the pie. The stay-at-home mom is gonna get a piece of the pie from that's ex-spouse. Okay. So they will be getting retirement into their own retirement account at the end of the divorce, unless they waive it, which don't do that. But unless you're getting something else big somewhere else, right? But you will get retirement. It's just not going to be, it's not going to feel the same as if you were working that entire 5 to 10 years or whatever, however long you've been staying home raising those kids.
Yeah.
But there is some coming to you at the end of divorce.
I didn't realize that was something that could be negotiated, having your health care provided for you as another point in spousal support. That's a game changer. I love it. I also, when we're talking about retirement, you can't make up for that lost time. When we're talking about the benefits of a 401k or a SEP IRA or an IRA or Roth, whatever you have, it's about a compound. That's a long catch-up game. So if your spouse does have retirement accounts and you are legally entitled to 50% of one, please keep in mind that the value of a retirement dollar is not the same in a retirement account is not the same as a dollar in a savings account or a checking account or even in your home equity. It's very, very different. Sharie, this conversation, you knocked it out of the park. Thank you so much for sharing your time, your expertise, and some really important information that are applicable no matter what state you're in.
Thank you for having me.
That's a wrap on today's episode. I hope you found it helpful. For more free resources, check out my blog at www.thedivorceplanner.net/blog. You'll find articles on how to emotionally and financially prepare for divorce, gain insights into the process from divorce experts, and empower yourself with tips and tools that make your divorce journey easier. And you can follow me on Instagram at the.divorce.planner, on Facebook at Divorce Prep, and on YouTube at The Divorce Planner for daily divorce prep tips and support. I've helped hundreds of clients and thousands more with my digital divorce prep tools prepare for divorce, and I'd be honored to support you too. I'm Alex Beatty, and this has been the Divorce Planner Podcast. Until next time, remember, divorce is hard. Preparing for one doesn't have to be.